All right, so the federal government just announced yesterday that they are increasing the carbon tax to 40 cents a liter by 2030. Now, I think there's a lot of important aspects to go over when it comes to this. I mean, I don't even know where to begin, but I mean, begin by saying, number one, this isn't going to be the end of it. Again, the numbers I think have been pretty clear on this that we need, you would need, sorry, at least $300 a ton to make a difference. Now, what am I getting at here? What I'm getting at is that I mean, you look at the BC government's own numbers, and something I've made videos about, in that they show that the carbon tax has no effect at the levels that it's at. It has no effect. The government's own numbers show that. So the only way that it would have an effect is if the carbon tax is much, much higher than it is right now. Now, what is the problem with that? What the problem with that is that the cost of living, the cost of goods and services has already gone up very drastically because of the existing carbon tax. This is a tripling of the existing carbon tax. So again, if people think that the cost of goods and services and the cost of living is high now, just wait till this crap gets implemented. Now, another thing a lot of people bring up too is, oh, they're kind of mocking Trudeau and thinking, oh, you really think you're going to be in power in 2030? Well, probably not. I mean, he probably knows that. I think most people probably know that. But what a lot of people aren't bringing up is that, do you really think that someone who is less radical than he is going to be in power? Like, I highly doubt it. Like, the conservatives have trended consistently to the left over the last 5 to 10 years. Like, the conservatives aren't going to change any of this stuff. They may draw it back a little bit, but they're not going to do nearly enough, um, as opposed to what needs to be done to actually make a difference. So again, the conservatives aren't going to do anything. Again, that's a complete fantasy, if you ask me. So again, this is another thing that people might not realize too, is that someone worse than him easily could be in power. Like, if the country keeps moving at the rate it's going, we're going to have someone like an AOC running us by 2030 for all we know. So again, this is something that people really shouldn't be laughing about, is that, yeah, Trudeau's not going to be in power in 2030, or at least it's very unlikely, but it's probably more likely than not that someone as radical or more radical than him is in power. So don't people bringing that up. I really think it's a terrible argument. But again, this is something that I'm really trying to figure out logical reasons behind this, and there really isn't anything. Like, there is no way you can argue, if you have in the right mind, and be sane, argue that we want to make the cost of living go up by thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars per year for some people, in an attempt to reduce our carbon output by less than 1%. Right? Canada already is less than 1% of the world's emissions, right? We already are less than 1%. So we are literally talking about less than 1/1000th of a percent here. Like, you're honestly arguing that that's going to make a difference? Like, how insane do you possibly have to be to argue that? Again, so what is the goal here? The goal here is simply to push for more government. And again, this is a win-win for a liberal government or any leftist government, because what's going to come of this? Well, number one, it's not going to fix the problem they claim to fix. I mean, that's always what happens with government stuff, is that it never actually fixes the problem they claim to fix. Now, why do you would ask, well, why are they doing it then? Well, why they're doing it is because the goal out of all these climate policies, it's not to worry about climate change. This is such a massive lie, and again, more people need to figure this out, is that it's not about caring about climate change or caring about any of this stuff. The goal is to push further and further to the left. That is what the goal. It's the whole UN, sustainable development stuff. That is what the goal is, right? That is what the goal is. And what is that goal? It's socialism, right? It's socialism. So again, what's going to come out of this is that, you know it's not going to fix the problem. So their solution is going to be, oh, we have to raise it more, because these leftists will they never admit they're wrong. The solution is always more of what we did. It's never less of what we did. It's always more. And because of that, they're just gonna keep ramping this up more and more and more. And what's going to come of that? Well, again, it's going to make things worse and worse and worse for the average person. And what's going to come out of that is, oh, we need more welfare, we need more free this, we need more free that, right? That's what's going to come out of this, right? It's so easy to predict, it's not even funny. It's so easy to predict, it's not even funny, right? Because you know exactly what I said, that All this is going to do, it's going to make the cost of living go through the roof. And because we're going to recover out of this whole quote unquote pandemic situation into a massive recession, that's just going to hurt things even more, right? That's going to hurt things even more. And what's going to be the solution to that? It's going to be, oh, UBI. It's going to be more free everything, right? So again, that is what the goal of the government here, I believe, because the goal can't be reducing emissions because we know that it doesn't reduce emissions. So it must be something else. It must be something else. There's no debate on that. And my belief is that the goal is simply it's going to be an excuse to push further and further for more socialism, right? It's just going to be an excuse for that. So anyway, the next thing I wanted to bring up here is from CNN, and this is very funny because even CNN is now admitting that the numbers out of China were completely fake. And this is something that you bring up to these, and this is another reason why I don't take the lockdown zealots seriously, is because most of them will defend the mainstream media on this kind of stuff, and especially in Canada. Like, not to mention too, we had Haydu and Tam and all these kind of people that defended the numbers coming out of China, even when they number one, their own government admitted they were wrong to some extent, but now we even have CNN admitting they're wrong. Like again, the levels of insanity going on out there these days, it's very insane, right? It's very insane, and then we have, you know, news outlets that you'd think these people would take seriously, but they're not. Now, why are they not doing it? It's because it's all about being in the club. It's all about the echo chamber. It's all about my team versus yours. This is why I'm so against these lockdowns, is because the people that support the lockdowns have demonstrated very clearly that no amount of information could come out, like literally no amount of information could come out for them to admit they're wrong. Literally nothing. And again, I've asked probably upwards of 100 people that support the lockdowns this, and I've never gotten a straight answer out of them. Never gotten a straight answer out of them. And then you continuously ask them, well, what would it take for you to admit you're wrong? You will never get a straight answer out of them. Number one, because they're genuinely ignorant enough to believe that there is literally nothing that could happen, which is insane. Or I think the more logical one is that they know that what would it take to admit they're wrong has already happened, right? It's already happened. So anyway, the next thing I wanted to bring up here is from Clay Travis. And this is from the San Francisco Chronicle saying, exclusive San Francisco Mayor London Breed dined at the French Laundry the night after Newsom's infamous ill-advised mid-pandemic soiree at the three-star Michelin restaurant. Now, again, this is just another example of people not following their own rules, and this is something that I've continuously brought up to the lockdown zealots and to people in general. Like, again, like how many of these examples do we need before we question the narrative? Like, how many of these examples do we need? I really don't, because we've had so many, it's not even funny. So again, if the amount that we currently have had, then what is the case? Like what is it going to take? And this is the thing that people need to understand too, is that if this quote unquote pandemic was as serious as what they're telling us, then they wouldn't be breaking their own rules, right? They wouldn't be breaking their own rules. Not only that, they wouldn't have to constantly be spewing all this propaganda at people, right? Like, do you think that the government had to spew propaganda to people during the Black Plague, like, or during the Spanish flu? Like, no, they didn't, because everybody knew that it was very serious. This is not serious for the vast majority of people. It's not serious for the vast majority of people. And the more they maintain this illusion, the worse it's going to get. Because I've said this over and over again that neither side is going to give in. Like neither, and the lockdown zealots have made it very clear that nothing can change their minds. And again, that they would point out the same goes the other way around, but at least the other way around has the actual data behind them, right? In that if the anti-lockdown people were wrong, well then there should be a very clear correlation between lockdowns and a reduction in cases. And again, simply pointing out Australia and New Zealand isn't anywhere close to proof on that. This is something again that these people seem to think, oh, well, Australia and New Zealand, right, it would be the same equivalent to be the other side saying, oh, yep, Florida and Sweden, or Florida and North Dakota. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it should work. There is 50 states. There is, what is there, like a dozen provinces. There is hundreds of countries, right? Give me a some data where you take a very large sample size, not two areas, right? The two areas that have literally hundreds to pick from, and you think that you have a good point to be made. Like, no, give me, a very high sample size, and then show me the data, and then show me the data. But they can't do that, and they don't do that because they know they're wrong. So anyway, the last thing I wanted to bring up, speaking of craziness, this is at a college football game, Texas A&M versus, I don't know, it doesn't say here. Anyway, these are people that are they're playing their flutes and their clarinets and whatever, I don't know what other instruments they would be playing, but they have masks on, but they have holes in the mask. Again, this is the levels of insanity that we are at these days. Like, it completely defeats the purpose too. This is the same thing with the stuff I brought up about the gym too. These people that, you take your mask on and off 50 times while you're at the gym. You're touching your face 100 times. Like, again, it completely defeats the purpose. Like, it completely defeats the purpose. There's no point in doing it. And again, like, do you have to be a medical doctor to figure that out? No, you have to be someone with basic common sense. You have to be someone with basic common sense. So again, this mask madness is absolute insanity. It's absolute insanity. Now again, what is it? I believe it's just simple tribalism. I think it's just simple tribalism too. And you have these people, they want to have that, my team versus your team. Not to mention too, people are so desperate to not have to admit they're wrong. I think that's where a lot of this comes from too. They're just that desperate to not have to admit they're wrong, right? Because again, if the mask mandates did anything, they would have did it by now. This is something that I told literally every one of these idiots back in the summer. That I told these people this. I remember telling literally more people that I can count this that don't. The mask mandates aren't going to do anything because most people do not wear them properly. And what did every single one of them tell me? Did any of them say I was right? No, not one of them said I was right. What every single one of them told me was, oh, as long as some people are wearing them, it'll still make somewhat of a difference. But is that what they're saying right now? Is that what they're saying right now? No, it's the complete opposite of that again. So these people are, I don't think that they could be more obviously wrong. I don't think it could be more clear cut that these people are wrong, and they need to be opposed because again, this stuff isn't going anywhere, soon either. This is another thing that I really can't stand about the people that are they're skeptical about the mask mandates and the lockdowns and all this stuff, but they think, oh, it's just temporary, so just go along with it. Well, that's not how it works. Is that how it's worked at any point during this whole time? Is that how it's worked at any point? Well, no, it's constantly more and more and more. These people are just going to keep pushing more and more and more until enough people wake up. So um, anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, I appreciate whatever support I can get. But again, at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more.